to tell you a bit about what's going to happen the next hour, I just want to go through a couple of practical things. So please make sure that your sound is turned off during the presentation. And just so you know, we're going to be recording the presentation today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please write them in the chat. And otherwise, we're going to take all the questions afterwards. So this is the agenda for today. After I will just tell you a bit about the Extra Living project, and then we are going to welcome Cristina Roca from LNG and CircuHub Portugal, and she's a senior researcher, and she will be the one telling us about circular business models. And then we will end the webinar with an open discussion to hear more about your thoughts on how you can continue working with circular business models. The reason we're here today is because we have 5 clusters doing the Extra Living project, and the project focuses on habitats in across sectorial dimensions. So it can be everything from home automation, welfare technology, lighting, furniture, and building and construction materials. And in this webinar series, we are trying to help SMEs and also other cluster members and interested to increase their competitiveness and internationalization opportunities, and essentially to enhance a smarter, more age-friendly and greener habitat value chain and its sectors. The webinar program is of 10 webinars, and we are having topics within digitalization, advanced technologies, sustainability, and internationalization. And I just quickly want to tell you about the Extra Living Help Desk, where I will urge all of you to go in and create an account, because in the Help Desk you will access the webinar afterwards and also the presentation from today. And also you can ask questions for a team of advisors in the forum, and you can meet other people who might be interested in doing collaboration with you. So I will send you a link to this afterwards as well. And so I want to welcome Cristina. And as I said, she's a senior researcher at the National Laboratory of Energy and Geology, where she is coordinating the circular economy and life cycle management for sustainability research area. And also she is the national coordinator of CircuHub Portugal, which is a project dedicated to promote businesses through circular design. So Cristina, I will stop my sharing, and then you can take over from here.
Thank you very much, Nana. And thank you very much for inviting me for this webinar. I look forward to sharing some ideas with you and also to have the chance of a discussion after my presentation. So I will share my screen now. I hope you can see it properly.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So yeah, the topic of today is circular business models. I will try to give you some examples from the habitat sector, but also a few others that may be inspiring, because often we got inspiration from something completely different and from thinking out of the box. So I will start with a few words about our institute. So as Nana said, we are the National Laboratory of Energy and Geology. So we basically do applied research in the fields of geology and energy. But there is one research unit, which is the resource economics unit, that is cross-cutting these two areas, which is where I work. So we basically work in 3 main areas. The one that I'm coordinating and that Nana has already referred to, it's in the middle, but also on prospective analysis of energy and geological resources towards decarbonization and circular and sustainable procurement. Now, going directly to the topic, can we save the planet by imitating nature? And actually, mankind has always observed and imitated nature to solve problems. And this discipline is called biomimicry, and you have a few examples here. For instance, the Japanese bullet train, the front inspired by the beak of the kingfisher in order to avoid friction when entering the tunnels, or Velcro that was inspired also on burr and the way it stuck to animals' fur, and this inspired the engineer to produce this material. Or at the buildings level, this is a shopping center in Zimbabwe whose ventilation system is inspired in these termites self-cooling mounds. So yeah, I mean, the basic idea is that other life forms have inhabited the earth for billions of years and have learned how to do many things we need to do now to avoid ecological catastrophes, like generating renewable energy from the sun, having a life-friendly chemistry, supporting biodiversity to flourish, and recycling materials in endless cycles. And this one is exactly the seminal idea of circular economy. Like in the natural world, where an organism's waste cycle through an ecosystem to provide nourishment to other living things, cradle-to-cradle materials, which is, let's say, a subcategory of circular economy, are meant to circulate in closed loops, providing nutrients. And this can happen in the biological cycle, so for nature, with renewable materials, biocompatible materials, but we can also try to imitate this model in the technical cycle for other types of products and materials that are typically non-renewable, but ideally circulate ad eternum in closed loops. So the circular economy offers principles for production and consumption, which are radically different from the take, make, use, discard regime that is dominating, and that's the linear economy, which is based on the false assumption that natural resources are available, abundant, cheap, easy to find, and easy to dispose of. We know that's not true. And this has caused very serious problems in terms of resource availability, but also pollution. Recycling offers part of the solution, but it's not enough. We need other strategies complementary to recycling, as we will see. So the circular economy actually is an economic model of production and consumption in which renewable and non-renewable resources circulate in the biosphere and technosphere. Okay, but another key word here is that at their maximum value. So we want to keep the value, to preserve the value of materials and products for the longest possible time, ideally in cycles powered by renewable energy. So again, we are not only talking about recycling, because with recycling, normally the materials lose their properties and cannot be used again for the same function as initially, so they end up as waste as well. We really need to avoid waste as much as possible. And then the question is, okay, there have been programs on circular economy at political level, at business level, etc. And how far have we gone? How successful have we been? And unfortunately, this is not a success story so far. So this figure here shows you the results of the most recent circularity gap report, according to which only 7.2% of the materials that enter the economy are actually cycled back. So we have material inputs in terms of non-metallic minerals, metals, fossil fuels, and biomass, and these will feed the industry. Part of them, industry and building. The building area takes a lot of resources, as we know. Part of them accumulate in stocks. Parts are emitted to the environment or waste, and only 7.2% are actually cycled. And the worst news is that the situation is not improving. On the contrary, according to the Circularity Gap report, which is elaborated by the Circle Economy, and this last one from 2023, together with Deloitte, the circularity rate has been decreasing along the years due to basically due to the increase of big cities where lots of materials are needed for infrastructure and other products. So we need to do much better than.
Christina, you turned your sound off just now.
Okay, is it okay now?
It's back. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it was a mistake. Okay, so at European level, the rate of circularity is not very high either. It's about 12%. I think the Netherlands is leading this metric with 30% circularity rate, but there is still a lot being wasted. And due to this kind of model of production and consumption, the Earth Overshoot Day was in 2022 on the 28th of July, which means that by that date, we have already used all the biological resources that the Earth can renew during the entire year. And we have here the figures for different countries. Portugal is here, Spain is here, Denmark is here earlier, even earlier, and Romania, which are the countries, it's here. So doing a little bit better. But yeah, this is a problem because from the Earth Overshoot Day onwards until the end of the year, we are in deficit, in ecological deficit. And this has implications not only on the material side, but also on the energy and emissions side. And here we see the materials related and the operational energy use emissions by sector. And if we take a look at the built environment, we see that the emissions related to the operational energy use are important, but the material-related emissions, meaning those emissions that are related to the production, transportation, and use of materials used in the built environment, are very important as well. Of course, here in transport, it's more on the energy side. Food system is completely on the material side. But this is to say that when we address a much more efficient and effective material use, we are also having strong implications in greenhouse gas emissions and fighting this climate emergency. And according to this study by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which has been so active in the field of circular economy, with the energy transition, we can tackle 55% of emissions, but then we still have 45% to tackle where the circular economy can play a very important role. If you think, for instance, in the difference of carbon emissions of virgin aluminum compared to recycled aluminum, the difference is huge. So we need this strategy also for climate change. And another important idea is that the energy transition itself will require lots of materials. and some of them are rare and critical. This graph is according to this idea. For someone who's born in 2010, how much is left? Imagining that this person lives, let's say, 90 years. So we see that we may run out of several fossil fuels, so we need to replace them by renewable energies, but then these renewable energies rely on materials that are also scarce. So we need to use them in a much better way. Currently, this is our model. This is our ideal, but we know that this is not possible just by recycling. And actually, the circular economy is not only about closing cycles, but it's a combination of strategies where we close, slow, and narrow resources. So in closing resource loops, the key word is use again. In slowing resource uses, the keyword is use longer. In narrowing, the keyword is use less. And then there is another important trend, which is regenerating loops, make clean, use biodegradable materials, renewable materials, etc. Well, this graph here shows the transition we need to make according to these three first strategies: closing, slowing, and narrowing. So basically, what we have been doing with eco-efficiency is to transition from this fat, let's say, resource use linear flow to this more efficient, doing more with less, etc. So we need to close, but we need also to use products for much longer time than we've been doing so far. And what is the role of design in all of this? The fact is that most products today are designed for fast replacement. And examples are fashion or electronic devices. And to create a circular economy, circularity and this kind of strategies should be considered already in the design phase, because circular design provides the potential of durability, repairability, maintenance, reuse, refurbishment, remanufacturing, recycling of products. And this is very important because most design decisions are not reversible. It's like unscrambled eggs. You can't do that. So we have to start thinking about this already at the design stage. And this is why perhaps Michael Braungart and William McDonough, the parents of the Cradle to Cradle initiative, say that we don't have a waste problem. We have a design problem. And more than 80% of environmental impacts of a product in its life cycle are determined at the design phase. So this is really, really important, and this is my focus in this presentation. Now, talking specifically about construction and use of buildings in the EU, there are some important figures. Half of our extracted materials and energy consumption are related to this sector. A third of water consumption, 25 to 30% of waste, and only 40% is reused or recycled. And a building is a very complex entity. It has many components with a very long expected lifetime, which means that the materials that are used in buildings as well as in infrastructures, they stay there in stock for a long time. Buildings use a high variety of materials and represent high consumption of resources and have elements with different lifespans. Another trend is that buildings need to be more flexible because more and more their use changes over time. So already at the project phase for a building, circularity considerations need to be taken. And a very good example of this, sorry, is the Circle House project in Denmark, which is totally designed for the circular economy. It's social housing. It consists of 60 housing units. I think they are going to be inaugurated this year. Perhaps our Danish friends can update us on this. And this is to demonstrate how building systems can be disassembled and reassembled for use in other buildings, keeping their economic and aesthetic value. These buildings have also been designed to easy access and maintenance in order to extend the lifetime of the old building, and they are modular, so they are flexible. They were designed for disassembly in order to avoid destructive demolition, which is very, very important in the building sector and in the habitat sector. And one tool that is related to this kind of thinking, where we have been working, is materials passports for buildings. So it's a digital document which has a compilation and display of materials that are included in a product and construction. It's a series of data that describes the characteristics of materials in products. And it contributes to a circular economy because this kind of tool gives those materials a value for recovery, recycling, and reuse materials and components. And this information is the passport of the building, but can also give an indication of, let's say, a bank of materials that will be available within a certain lifespan. And yeah, I will not go in detail in this tool, but I wanted to mention here you have the link where you can access this tool. It is available in Portuguese and in English with an instructions manual. But basically, well, it is organized according. Sorry, let me go back. It is according to these different layers: the site, the skin, the structure, the services, and the space plan, like we've seen in the concept of the Circle House project in Denmark, because they have different lifespans. And for each of these layers, we have a core section where users can register the products and respective materials and their quantification and some other information. And then an additional sector where circularity related information about products and materials is inserted. And this leads to an automatic calculation of circularity indicators, which are basically the reuse potential and the recycling potential. And this is an automatically produced overview of the materials that are in a building and the amounts, recyclability, etc. But the other idea, which is very important for business model building, is that the circular economy is not only about thinking of nature and closing loops and so on, but it's also about capturing and retaining value. And we haven't been very good in this. This graph, again from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, shows how value is lost in selected materials related to mobility, food, and built environment value chains is lost along the life cycle. So we overuse materials in the production stage. During the productive life, many products have a very low utilization. For instance, 8% for cars. The rest of the time, cars are idle. We use them for a shorter period than they would technically allow. And after the first cycle, we recapture only 5% of raw material value. So we need to do better than this. And some authors have developed an interesting tool to understand this idea of retaining value, which is the value hill. And the value hill is a circular business strategy tool that provides companies an understanding of how to position their business in a circular context to develop better strategies for the future. And this one represents the product's life cycle in a linear economy. So we have developed sophisticated ways to design, produce, distribute, and sell goods. And as this is the life cycle in a simplified way, so only 3 phases: pre-use, use phase, and post-use. And what we see is that as we manufacture a product to the point it is sold, we are adding value to this product, environmental and economic value. And this is why this is going uphill. But in a linear model, once this product is used, it is discarded, and therefore its value is immediately destroyed, which means that there is only business and value when we go uphill. At this point, the product has reached its highest value, and the companies are not connected to the product anymore, so to say. So this means that this kind of model encourages more sales, because the more sales, the more profit, which is then an incentive for short product lifespans and premature obsolescence. So, and this is something that we need to contradict with the product life cycle in a circular economy and the value hill in a circular economy. And this figure represents exactly there. So when we go uphill, the products are designed to last. We should encourage a longer use phase, which is represented here in the top hill. And then after the first use, there are still options to reuse, refurbish, remanufacture, and recycle the products. And all this makes sense from an ecological and economic point of view. So these are the kind of business models that are related to these ideas. So circular design models, so to design products and materials with the aim of long-term value retention. Then optimal use models that support a better usage and supporting service. And then value recovery models that capture value after the first life of the product. And there is a kind of a hierarchy here. So reuse in general terms is better than to refurbish, because if I reuse a product with no or absolute minimal interference, we don't need to use money and any resources to reuse the product and make business out of it. Then a second stage would be to do some refurbishment, and this is then involving the distribution level, and the product can be reused still intact with a little bit of work. The next stage would be to remanufacture, and here we are using the components of the product, not the product as a whole. So we go back to manufacturing and can reuse the components. And if none of this is possible, then we act at the material level with recycling. But there is this hierarchy, the closer the loops, the better. To give you an example from an economic point of view, a smartphone, let's say that as new costs, say 600 euros, it can be sold second-hand if it is in good condition by 300 euros. But if we want to recycle the materials that are in this mobile phone, we make 72 cents. So there is, of course, an economic incentive to these kind of strategies, and also an ecological incentive. So these ideas have been systemized in many different typologies of business models. We could use different ways of explaining this. I'm using the systemization that has been developed in this book, Products That Last, that has been produced by Delft University of Technology, these authors here, and that we are using in the Circo Hub Portugal project, which is a capacity building project that goes on in Portugal. We are close to the end, where companies use this kind of strategies to, in 2.5 days training, set up a new business model. So which business models are we talking about? We have here the example of a washing machine that illustrates very well the different types of business models. So starting with the classic long life model. Here, the business model is related to offering to the market products that are intrinsically more durable and have a higher quality. The revenues are related to the higher price that the consumers are willing to pay for a better product. And of course, the sustainability interest is that they last longer, and therefore there are less resources necessary to offer the same function. Then we have the hybrid model, where we are concerned not only with the product itself, but also with the consumables that are necessary to make this, in this case, washing machine function. So how circular are the detergents and their packaging in this case? This could be the question. Then we have business models that are called as gap exploiters. So once this washing machine has finished its life cycle, its first life, what can we do with it? Of course, we can have a repair service to prolong its lifetime. We can sell it in a second hand, or we can recover the components for remanufacturing, or ultimately the materials, the steel, the plastics, etc., for recycling. So there are also these business models. And finally, two business models that are perhaps the most disruptive, but also offer the highest opportunities for innovation, which are the access model and the performance model. In the access model, we basically rent the access, or we offer the service of accessing the product. Think, for instance, in those communitary washing stations where people bring their clothes and wash them, so they rent the use of the machine. The important thing here is that the manufacturer or the service provider has an incentive to keep those machines functional and operating for the longest time as possible, because that's the most profitable situation for them. And this really contradicts the obsolescence model that is encouraged by the linear economy. And finally, another service-oriented business model, which is performance. And in this case, the user or the client is not concerned at all with the equipment that is used to produce a given result. And this is illustrated here by a laundry service. So I don't care what kind of machines they use. I'm not using any machines whatsoever, detergents, etc. I just want the result, which is clean clothes in this case. For these business models to work, of course, we need a series of design strategies that facilitate maintenance and repair, standardization and compatibility, disassembly and reassembly, upgradability and adaptability, For some products, attachment and trust, so that people want to keep the products for as long as possible. This is emotional design, where there is a kind of an attachment of the consumer to the product, and durability. So this is to say that circular business models require circular design. And on the other hand, circular design also implies business models that make the best of their results. So showing you some other examples, let me start here with this Ecotech. This was actually the result of a project with us. This is produced by a Portuguese ceramics company, Revigres. And in this case, we're talking about recycling, internal recycling. These new tiles are made of up to 100% recycled material from production. Another example related to closing cycles is refurbished and remanufactured products. We see lots of examples. They are put on the market as new with the same warranty. This is important. And here on top, I have two totally different ideas, but I think they are worth mentioning. They are related to that idea of regenerating, of using renewable materials, biocompatible materials, and especially this Ecovative material, or actually this is a company and a brand. They use mycelium, so fungi roots that are grown in a certain shape with no light, no water whatsoever. They are grown in agro industry waste, and they produce, for instance, this kind of packaging that replaces styrofoam. And at the end of the life, this is totally compostable. Actually, the same company, the same ceramics company, has also developed an interesting project, which is these tiles. The idea here is that they can be reused without destruction. So using these rings, they are put together, and if one needs to replace the pavement, they can be taken out with using a simple tool, and we don't need to destruct them, and we can apply in another space. This can be also very, very interesting. Again, with the same idea, there is this ClickBrick project in the Netherlands, where they have this system that avoids mortar to assemble bricks. Another interesting example related to design for longevity, easy repair and modular upgrades is the Fairphone. It's a mobile phone, Dutch mobile phone, that is very easy to repair and upgrade by the user using very simple tools. And an example of longevity is this Windows produced in Austria, where they offer 30 years warranties. And then examples that are more in the service side. Some of them are the kind of access model I mentioned before, like, for instance, this Hilti Fleet Management. It's electric tools leasing. It's a business-to-business approach. This company, Doka, from Austria, they are a construction company that worked with us in a project, and they have a business unit which is formworks renting, which is quite kind of interesting. They have a very good logistics system, so that builders don't need to own their own formworks. They rent it to Doka, and they have a very efficient system to put them in place as needed by the client. But then we have those performance models, and this one is very well known. It used to be the Paperlux by Philips, but now it's another company. It's this company Signify. And the interesting thing about this is that the client doesn't buy light bulbs. They contract the service of lighting, of providing good quality lighting in places like Schiphol Airport, Washington Underground, and several companies are using this. So again, this is dissociating revenues from more from more production. So the profitability does not necessarily mean more production. The trend is to make more and more with the same product. And this transition from products to offering services bring this opportunity to dissociate revenues from resources consumption and pollution. We have another example here, which is the Rolls-Royce engines using in aircraft, Power by the Hour, the Paper Mile by Michelin for professional fleets, etc. So these are on the market, so they make business sense and they are offering interesting sustainability opportunities. Where to find?
A couple of more minutes, and then we have time for questions.
I'm almost finishing.
Great.
Thank you, Nana. Yeah, thank you. Just to tell you where you can find tools, examples, and knowledge, inspiration. There is this project that we coordinated some years ago where there is a knowledge hub. I invite you to explore it. Within this project, we developed several tools, 7 to be more precise, and 2 of them are particularly relevant for this presentation today, the CE Strategist and the CE Designer. They are web-based tools, you can use them online. And the CE strategy allows companies to identify circular business opportunities based on the very well-known business model Canvas. So I recommend you go there and take a look if you are interested. And the CE Designer is, again, a web-based tool consisting of checklists for prioritization, evaluation, and idea generation for products and services which are more circular. And okay, according to this list of strategies. And the result is a comparison of how the baseline product or solution performs in comparison to the new solution according to the different strategies that can range from long life products to design for recycling, etc. So these are simple to use tools. Here is the link to our unit where you can see different projects, this Catch-E that I have already mentioned, Circo, also Circular Start, this is devoted to startups. The passports are available on the site of this project, so we invite you to take a look. And I will finish my presentation by saying that I started by saying if we could save the planet by imitating nature, and my final message is that imitating nature requires system thinking. This is very important. And there is this well-known example of a tree. And if we think that the tree blossoms to reproduce itself, this is a very inefficient process because the number of seeds that fall to the ground and will raise new trees is very, very, very low. So on the level of the tree, this is a very inefficient process. But those seeds that fall on the ground will feed animals and plants and help keeping the forest as an ecosystem functioning. And so we should avoid the risk of silo thinking when we think about circular economy, because this can lead for very unsustainable solutions. And just 3 examples here. For instance, bioplastic packaging, this idea of regenerating, this requires dedicated collecting systems. Otherwise, if we put bioplastic packaging in the same as other packaging, this will harm oil-based plastics recycling. Or extending the life cycle, the lifetime of appliances is interesting to a certain point, because then if the appliances have a very low performance in terms of energy use or energy consumption in use, this can be counterproductive. And also recycling can also have negative effects. So think in functionality instead of products. Analyze where value is created and destroyed. Think circularity already in the design phase. Always keep a life cycle perspective. Don't concentrate only on production and on use. Involve stakeholders in developing new solutions. Understand new consumer practices. How is the market evolving? Consumers want comfort, want practicality. So circular solutions need to be attractive, but they should also be sustainable, and this needs to be checked. It's not a given. Act by example and also consider the local social value that this kind of solutions can bring to your system, the system where you operate. And this is basically what I had to tell you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Christina. It was really interesting. And now I want to urge you to put on your camera and write a question in the chat or raise your hand.